Power can be clean, but very few men know this because most of us were only ever taught how to influence through pressure, through volume, through strategy, through leverage. We learned how to push, we learned how to pull, we learned how to impress, how to persuade, and how to lead by gathering attention and then bending it. And when that didn't work, we leaned harder, we spoke more, we became louder, sharper, more convincing. And somewhere along the way, we stopped listening, we stopped holding, we stopped calibrating our energy to the clarity of what was, and began shaping everything around us to suit what we needed. This isn't evil, this is human. Most men are taught to equate power with pressure. To influence is to move something, to lead is to mobilize, to be strong is to penetrate space and restructure it. But there's another kind of power, and it doesn't seek to reshape reality. It holds the frequency of something so true, so anchored, so undeniably coherent, that reality begins to align itself around it. That is clean power. And once you begin transmitting it, you stop needing to interfere with anything. Clean power does not persuade, it clarifies. It doesn't push, it reveals. It does not dominate, it aligns. And when you lead from that place, you don't need to manage people anymore. You don't need to manipulate outcomes. You don't need to insert yourself into anyone's process to ensure they're getting it right. You simply hold the structure and let resonance do the rest. Clean power is not passive, it's not gentle, it is precise, it is grounded, anchored, firm, but not forceful. It doesn't say, let me tell you how it is. It says, this is what is, and you're welcome to meet it if you choose. When a man leads with clean power, he stops speaking to convince, he stops coaching people who haven't asked, he stops inserting his wisdom where it isn't welcome. He no longer needs to be the loudest, the smartest, or the most experienced man in the room, because he's no longer sourcing power from attention. He sources it from alignment. There's a deep temptation for the man who has done the work to want to help, to guide, to offer perspective from his higher vantage point. But the moment you begin speaking from your position instead of your presence, you begin distorting the field. You begin layering subtle projections onto people who didn't ask for your signal. And no matter how coherent your structure is, if you broadcast it without consent, you become an intruder, an invader, a manipulator with good intentions. And even if they don't realize it, their body will resist you, because the field always knows what it didn't ask for. Clean power is non-impositional. It never takes up more space than is offered. It does not seek to calibrate others by force. It simply is, and in being, it invites. This is the difference between projection and presence. Projection says, I see what's wrong with you, and here's what you need to do to fix it. Presence says, I've made peace with myself, and you are free to feel whatever that evokes in you. One is an attempt to control, the other is an invitation to remember. There are men whose power enters the room and infects others with distortion. You feel the rush, the charisma, the energy, but it's not clean. It draws you in whilst extracting something. It takes your focus and sells you inspiration as proof of leadership. But you leave that space exhausted, overstimulated, disorientated, because what you received was a projection, and projection always leaves residue. Then there are other men, quieter men, still men. You enter their field and something begins to settle. You feel more yourself around them rather than a reflection of them. Your thoughts clarify, your body softens, your distortion begins to lift, and they've said almost nothing. That is clean power. That's field-based influence. That's what happens when a man becomes so internally ordered that those around him begin to self-correct without being told to. That's the frequency I now carry, and I have no desire to project it onto anyone. I don't need to be felt to know I'm anchored. I don't need to lead to know that I'm clear. I don't need to be heard to know my presence is real. So if you're learning this discipline, if you're beginning to hold more coherence than the space around you, you must resist the temptation to impress it upon others. You will feel where distortion lives. You will sense when someone is performing. You will see the weakness in their words. But just because you can see it doesn't mean you're meant to fix it, because clean power doesn't fix. It calibrates by simply remaining aligned, no matter what others do. You do not have to correct. You do not have to explain. You don't have to insert your clarity into distortion to purify it. Because the moment you leave your post, you become contaminated too. Clean power is quiet power. It doesn't build followers, it builds frequency. And those who are ready will find it, not because you've reached for them, but because they were always searching for coherence. And when they find it, they won't orbit you. They will begin to remember themselves. That is clean influence. That is true leadership. And that is the Architect Speaks.